Hi, welcome back. In today's episode, I would like us to talk about the proposed 5% tax on the infrastructure bonds. As we all know, CBK every single month, like literally every month, CBK auctions treasury bonds. Like right now, we have two bonds which were closed, and we have one which is still open for bidding. CBK borrows through three means, yeah? Either treasury bills, treasury bonds, or infrastructure bonds, which is also a treasury bond. The difference between infrastructure bonds and these other bonds is that, or the treasury bonds is that, or what we call the FXD is that infrastructure bonds, short form IFB, are not taxed. They have not been taxed. The treasury bonds and T-bonds are taxed at 15%. However, we have some treasury bonds, the long-term treasury bonds, the bonds which run for 10 years and above, are taxed at 10%. But infrastructure bonds have not been carrying any tax to them. So if the coupon rate for IFB has been quoted at 18% and you are to invest 1 million, every year CBK will be paying you 180 million. Sorry, 1,000 shillings. There was a proposal in this latest financial bill. There was a proposal that a 5% tax be introduced on the infrastructure bond. In other words, if you are to invest 100,000 shillings previously at a rate of 16%, previously you will be earning 16,000 shillings taxed at 10%, so you'll be earning 14,400 shillings. Let me paraphrase that. If you are to invest 100,000 shillings in a 10-year treasury bond, which is taxed at 10%, you'll be earning, your net coupon will be 14,400 shillings. And if you are to invest in a 16% coupon infrastructure bond, you'll be earning 16,000 shillings and not 14,400. Why? Because infrastructure bonds have not been taxed. They are not taxed. But there was a proposal to increase, or to introduce rather, the tax on the IFBs at 5%. To introduce a 5% tax, on the infrastructure bonds. What is the status of that? I have seen a post about people saying that, oh, the IFBs are going to be taxed from next year, the IFBs are going to be taxed from next month. That is not accurate information. That proposal to introduce a 5% tax on the IFBs has been declined. So now going forward, we shall continue to enjoy the tax-free investment in IFBs. When is the government going to float the IFB? I know you're going to ask me that in the question. Nobody knows. I see you guys, whenever you guys ask that question, you're given answers. Oh, November, December, January, February. Nobody knows. Nobody has the schedule. The schedule for the IFBs has not been released. And do you know why CBK does not release the schedule for the IFBs? Because CBK knows that infrastructure bonds are not taxed. CBK knows that you and I always want to maximize our returns. Why? Because you have subscribed to my channel and you are a wise investor. And wise investors always want to maximize their returns, especially when the risk is at the same level. So if CBK was to schedule an IFB in February, and then they issue a treasury bond in December, would you buy it? Of course not, knowing very well that there is a treasury bond, an IFB, which will be issued in February and it will not be taxed. If CBK was to schedule an IFB to auction an IFB in January, and we have even 4 papers being auctioned in December, who would want to invest in this December paper, knowing very well that come January, an IFB, which is a tax-free paper, will be auctioned? So it's for that reason that CBK does not release to us in advance when they will be auctioning an IFB. We can only speculate. For instance, I told you guys that I will not expect an IFB this year until next year. Why? Because there has been an oversubscription. Remember, CBK issues these infrastructure bonds and treasury bills to borrow from the market. And there has been an over demand of this paper. When there is an over demand in the treasury bonds, there is no motivation for CBK to auction an IFB which is going to cost them more. Why? Because it is tax-free. These taxes that we pay on the treasury bonds is income to CBK. In other words, these taxes that we pay on the treasury bonds reduces the borrowing cost for CBK. Why? Because of paying you 16% because of paying you the coupon rate at 16%, CBK pays you 14.4%, and they retain the 10% tax, or they retain the 15% withholding tax, which is an income to the government, right? So CBK will not want to release an IFB when there's an over demand in the treasury bonds. If you notice, the last time we had an IFB this year, there was an undersubscription in the last two auctions. And I'm not saying that that is the only rationale that CBK uses to float IFBs, but it is common. Is it common sense? I don't know. It is an open secret, yeah, that the last time we had an IFB this year, the previous auctions were grossly undersubscribed. Now, to increase the investors' appetite in investing in these government securities, CBK auctioned an IFB, and we had an oversubscription in the IFB that was released this year. It's on that same purpose, that same market reaction is what made CBK, or what made the parliament or parliamentary committee, whichever body that is, yeah, to reject the proposal to tax the infrastructure bonds at 5%. Why? So that the IFB can continue to be lucrative to investors. If the tax was introduced, the 5% tax was introduced, and we still have just the 10% tax on the treasury bonds, then there will really be no motivation to take up these IFBs over the treasury bonds, knowing that the difference in the tax difference is just 5%. 5% is not a huge differential, yeah? So to make us continue to have, to encourage us, to make the IFBs more lucrative, or to become more attractive to us, like it has always been, the proposal to introduce the 5% tax was declined. And so, until further notice, the IFBs shall not be having the 5% tax. We will continue to enjoy a tax-free investment in the infrastructure bonds. Finally, have you subscribed to the channel? Please press the subscribe button. The risk of you not subscribing to my channel is that you guys consume misleading information outside there. Please press the subscribe button, give me a like, leave me a comment in the comment section, and see you on the next video.